And we're live on Crown Corner on WFNZ's Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. Will Pelagic, Jessica Charman here with you. We've had a couple of pre-recorded Crown Corners. We've had a couple of other situations develop over the course of the last couple of weeks with midweek games, but we're both here live and here to talk some Charlotte FC with you here on this Wednesday, the final day of August. What's going on, Jess? How are you?
I am hanging in there, Will, living the dream, struggling a little, but we have made it for Crown Corner. Delighted to be joining you. Wish it was under better circumstances in terms of the results that we're talking about, but alas, it's not always meant to be.
Yeah, Charlotte FC has not had the best run of play lately, to put it mildly. 3 consecutive home losses, and right now a lot of people using the word rebuilding instead of the word playoffs. And even though they are 4 points away from still the playoff line, a very congested MLS Eastern Conference table still looks mathematically attainable, but the run of play definitely needs to improve for Charlotte FC if they even want to think about the P word right now, Jess.
Yeah, mathematically possible without a doubt, particularly if we're able to improve and kind of capture some of those really positive performances that we've had through the season. But I think the biggest key word in terms of making playoffs right now would be consistency. And that's something that we've struggled with throughout the course of the season. Understandable in an inaugural season, it can be tough, particularly when you have changeovers in players, losing key players like Guzman Corujo. But at the end of the day, I think that we still have that opportunity, but most importantly, it's about taking it game by game and making sure that we're able to pick up points in every match that we play for the remainder of the season.
And I also think, Jess, that looking at this season as playoffs, I feel like a lot of people think the playoffs is a barometer to determine success. I don't know if that's necessarily fair, because you had this team have to go through a coaching change. You also had some earlier in the season results that I think the group as it composed right now probably wouldn't have had those results come by the wayside. I think the early Atlanta game is one that you look at and you say, oh my goodness, that probably is one where you thought there could be a point there. There are others that have developed throughout the course of this season where the team made unforgivable mistakes, at least at that point. And then I think if you think about them later on, you'd feel like those are things that they'd have assignment correct. But even still, in some of the latest results, there have been some goals conceded that come off of, I don't want to say school ground errors, but there have been some issues that Charlotte FC just haven't been able to overcome that are very much their own undoing.
I think when you look back at the season, there's many points that were left on the table, and that's the nature of the beast in soccer. If you don't put your chances to bed, you're always going to enable defensive errors. Listen, as a defensive player myself in goal, I'll tell you something. It's always the defenders that we look at in terms of errors, unfortunately, most of the time, because, those are the unforgivable errors in terms of conceding goals. Those are the ones that really make a dent on the score sheet. But a lot of the time, if we had put chances to bed, if we had been clinical in front of goal, it wouldn't have meant there was as much pressure on the defenders not to concede in those moments. And I think that last weekend's game is absolutely the real pinnacle of that. When you think back to probably some of the most chances that we've created in an entire match, but weren't able to put less than a quarter of them on target. And that's a real issue in the Toronto game. It was not putting the game to bed before. We could have been 2-3-0 up in the first half, and we could have had more goals added in the second half. But unfortunately, we didn't do that. And that enabled Toronto the opportunity to have those moments of individual magic from the 2 Italian players that we knew had the potential to hurt us. But even if they had had those 2 moments, it should have never been a 0-0 scoreline when those goals happened, when they were created. So I think that, listen, the headlines will always be about defensive errors, and I get it. That's the nature of the position, and it's always going to be that way. But I think we have to twist the story a little bit and think about, we dominated a lot going forwards, we just weren't able to make the mark on the score sheet when it really mattered.
We definitely encourage you to put your comments in on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitch, as well as on Twitter. We'll get to them throughout the course of our half hour together. Jess is also going to sit down with Jalen Lindsey for a real great conversation to talk with the Charlotte native and Charlotte's current starting right back. And I do feel like people will want to hear from Jalen because he definitely has a very big following. I do also feel that, Jess, you mentioned the fact that some of the chances did not necessarily go the way of Charlotte FC from a execution standpoint. I also think, too, that dealing with this schedule for the first time, I do also feel like with this squad, some of the attrition in the roster has certainly become evident. The loss of Guzman Corujo is something people look at and say, has been very, very difficult to overcome. But even in the midfield, I know that, Nuno Santos, we expect him to be back this week off the visa. So that's at least a good thing for Charlotte FC. But that's one area of this team, the midfield, that has failed to really give consistent performances week over week. And I do feel like if there's any key, I mean, anybody, I'm not going to sit here and say anybody can find a striker, but I think the real differentiator that when it comes to this league is high quality play from a central attacking midfielder and another way to actually set up goals aside from just kicking it in from the wing.
Yeah, games are won and lost in the midfield. We talk about that in almost every pregame show, how important it's going to be for the midfielders to get on the ball. And one of the common threads in games that we haven't done so well in has been not winning those one-on-one duels in the midfield, not being first to the first and second balls. It's all very well trying to put in the first challenge. When it doesn't go your way, you've got to win the second challenge. And I think that those games have happened. Brandt Bronico is a brilliant player. We know he is, but unfortunately, it can't always be him that needs to have a good game. And he needs to be able to have that respite. It's exhausting playing week over week. And unfortunately for Brandt Bronico, I think at times his gameplay has shown that fatigue mentally and physically, but there's not a substitute for him that the manager feels comfortable with, which is understandable with where our roster is at the moment. I think the Guzman Corujo loss, you can't underestimate. I thought Adilson Malanda was a fantastic addition, but on that same boat, Guzman Corujo, I don't think it's a coincidence with how many goals we've conceded at home since Guzman Corujo has left the starting lineup. And I'm excited about the future of Adilson Malanda, don't get me wrong, but he's only played one game so far. So that's not a very big pool of us to be able to see. So I think we've had some tough blows go our way, but at the end of the day, it is an inaugural season. I think there's more positive to take than negative, but understandably, when we've teased with the playoff positions throughout the whole season, that's where the fans want us to be, and we want to be there too.
Well, I also feel like the more important thing right now, Jess, as we get ready and head into Cincinnati, and we'll talk about it a little bit more coming up later on, it's that I do feel like the better thing for Charlotte FC to have happen right now is just to play better. I think, and put a win up on the board, whether it's on the road or at home a week from Saturday against New York. I understand that it's tantalizing to look at the playoff line right now, but I think the more important thing for Charlotte FC is to just get positive play out there, because I think more so you need to get your momentum back underneath you, because despite the New York City away win, that seems like forever and a day ago because of what's happened, not just before that, but also since then.
It does. And I think it's really important to pick up a result. And we say that, but you need to break the losing streak. And yes, we're away from home for the next couple of games, but it's vital that we're able to show that we're able to win on the road. And most importantly, once we get back home, I think that's the match where it's so important for our fans to get to see a better performance out of the side, and the players know that as well.
Saturday at FC Cincinnati is next on the docket, but next on the docket for us here on Crown Corner, a man who is the first native of the city of Charlotte, first-born player here to come into the squad. He was a member of Sporting Kansas City's academy before coming over to Charlotte FC after the advent of the club. It's our second opportunity to talk with him this year, and Jess sits down with Charlotte native Jalen Lindsey, our right back here from Crown Corner.
Welcome into the training ground on Crown Corner. Joining me today, a fan favorite in Jalen Lindsey. Jalen, thank you so much for taking the time out to come join us today.
Yep, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's been a while since we last talked. I think it's fair we have to discuss the weekend first, a tough result at the weekend. How are you guys doing, reflecting on what was a difficult loss at home?
Yeah, obviously, no one likes to lose, and obviously it kind of hurts that, we came out of there with no points. But I think at the end of the day, as for us as players, I mean, we look at it as, I feel like we're kind of improving of the way we want to play each and every game. And I think this game versus Toronto was, the kind of like the next big step, because obviously they have, good individual players that can change the game. And, I feel like we did really well. We created a lot of chances. But now I think our main focus as players is trying to figure out how we can create more chances. And, the next step is also to try to finish these chances as well, because I feel like we just had a lot. If we can finish those chances, I feel like that can just change the entire game, especially if we're at home too. So, obviously there's a little things that we still need to work on, but, I think obviously with not coming with any points, I think we're so proud of the way we played.
100%. On a personal level for you, back in the starting lineup, how interesting and mentally challenging, but also important for your career has it been having that back and forth with Harrison Awful in terms of positioning and getting the starts in the season?
Yeah, I mean, it's been good. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, obviously, at the end of the day, I can only control, what I can control, whether I'm not playing, or if I'm playing 90 minutes, or if I'm playing 10, 15 minutes. Like, for me, I'm just more about, being that kind of team player, and, wherever the team needs me, like, I just want to be there for the team and try to do as much as I can, you know what I mean? So, but also like with Harrison, also playing, like I learned, I'm still learning like so much from him, that just the way he's playing and stuff like that, because he's just so intelligent with the game. He's been in this league for a little bit now, and he has so much experience overseas as well. So it's also good to see the way he plays, because then, when I go out there, when like it's kind of like my opportunity, then it's kind of like, okay, like, Harry's in, these types of positions that, I can be in and stuff like that. And, I feel like the last, 2 or 3 games I've been playing in, like, I feel like I just, increased, my level from the beginning of the season so much. And that's why it's just so good to have, I guess for me, it was good to have that kind of balance of, watching Harrison and, me playing, because, you can just learn so much from just sitting, like, when you're on the bench, you can learn so much from just, watching.
I think it's funny that you bring up that sort of learning from others and leadership and positions of maybe maturity in the team. When we were last on Crown Corner, you talked about being a leader for younger players, the likes of Ben Bender, the likes of Quinn McNeil. How nice has it been for you to see someone like Quinn McNeil coming in and contributing regular minutes, Ben Bender and his growth? For you as a leader, does that make you feel proud of those guys?
Oh, it makes me so proud. I mean, honestly, like, whenever you think of, rookies coming to the first season, it's always kind of a Debbie Downer a little bit, because, I mean, you go from playing, you become from being, the man always playing 90 minutes in every game of where you came from. And then you come to the professional level, and it's like your whole career starts over again. And then you have to reestablish yourself and stuff like that. And, for Ben and, Quinn to come in and just like play the way they're playing is like, it's unbelievable. And I'm so proud of them. Obviously we all continue to try to push each other each and every day, and especially myself. This is my 5th in the league, so like I can give those guys so much advice, to keep pushing themselves to, be better, players, and better people off the field as well. So, I'm just really proud of the way they're going right now, and hopefully they can keep continuing forward like that.
And you talk about continuing forward. The team has to continue forward. 6 matches left, coming to the real make or break part of the season. For you guys, what do you think you're going to be focusing on in the course of those 6 games? What do you guys have to get right in order to finish the way this season you want it to go?
Yeah, so it's pretty much make it or break it. I mean, we have 6 games left. We're going to need every single player in this squad, whether if you're playing or not, to just have and show that belief that we can, make the playoffs. And that's kind of our main goal right now, is get the playoffs. And then, obviously, I mean, you might know, but I know as well from like this league, if you make it to playoffs, like anything can happen no matter what. So it's just about trying to make the playoffs, and we're just gonna need everybody. And, every roll of the ball is just so important. So we're just gonna need a lot of communication throughout the entire games, and whether it's in practice or in the game as well, we're gonna need communication. We're gonna need people who are maybe on the bench. We're gonna need guys to help us if we're on the field. Like, we're gonna need guys to see from the outside to help us, like, how we're gonna win this game. Like, we're just gonna need everybody to be on their A game, 100% focused, because that's the most important thing, is being 100% focused on every roll of the ball. And we can't have any mess ups. And obviously we've made mistakes throughout the season, but it's all about watching the film and learning back. And learning from that and not making those mistakes again. So that's just kind of the most important thing, is just everyone to be 100% focused and, just believing that we can make the playoffs.
And you talk about needing everybody. A couple of new additions. We got to see Adelson Miranda for the first time on the weekend. We know that Nuno Santos is in training, Nathan Byrne working on a few things. How good was Adelson Miranda on Saturday, slotting into a new position in terms of with a new team?
Oh my God. It seemed like he's just been playing this league for so long already now. And obviously playing next to him, it was great for me. Like I was so comfortable with him back there. He just seemed like it was like a normal game for him. Like it wasn't like a debut for him. It was just like a normal game. They went out there and did his thing. And, he actually did phenomenal in my eyes. And I know everybody else thought he did really good too. So, hopefully he's another one of those guys that he's a younger guy. And I'm sure he has plenty of experience playing in, a second French league over in France. But he's one of the other young guys that is doing well already. He played one game and it just seemed like he was just like, already a veteran in this league already. So he's another one of those guys that I hope that, he keeps pushing himself, and hopefully I can keep pushing him as well, and, teaching him as well. And he can keep moving forward to the top.
We've called you a hometown hero, of course. We've talked on the podcast before about how special Charlotte is, the Bank of America Stadium, the atmosphere. But let's talk a little bit about it again, because I think it deserves some credit. Another really great crowd on Saturday. How amazing has it been playing in your home city with a fan base that you probably would have been part of if you weren't a professional footballer now?
Yeah, it's like I said before, it's just I'm grateful for the city to be so supportive of, Charlotte FC. For me, obviously coming into this team, obviously I heard news about the first game being, sold out type thing or whatever, but for us to consistently get, a little bit over 30,000 each game is like unbelievable, I think, with our being the first season. And it just shows how much support we have in the city and how much people support, our organization and invest in us as players to go out each and every weekend to watch us play. And that's why a little bit of the players were disappointed, because obviously we want to go out there and show the fans, why they came to watch us play, because we want them to come watch us win games and play well. And I think personally for me, part of it is they invest so much time into, coming to the games, going to tailgates, being there for the entire 90 minutes, cheering us on. And, for us to not come away with points at home is like a bit tough for me, because obviously I'm from here and I just want to give back, to the city as much as I can and stuff like that. So, it's just been great so far. And I love playing in front of the fans, and, obviously my family's here as well, and a bunch of friends that are here too. So it's just been really great to play in front of them.
And if I remember correctly, 3 home games left in that 6-match stint. How important is it that you guys are able to pick up 3 wins at home for the remaining games?
Oh, for sure. It's probably one of the most important things. That's where we can get the slight advantage of getting those 3 points, and hopefully we can come away with 9 by the end of those 3 home games. And that's just the most important things. Obviously, away games are a little bit tougher, just with different fan bases and stuff like that. So, but when we're in our home, it's just all about trying to get 3 points, because we have, like I said, we have 30,000 people as our 12th man, and that's just kind of an extra push for us to keep going. So I believe in this team. I believe we can come away with a lot of points in the next 6 games, and we just got to stay 100% focused and believe that we can make playoffs.
So I told you that I tweeted out trying to get some fans to ask some questions. So we selected a few of them. These are from the fans, not from me.
Okay.
So someone wanted to know, with you being a younger player, of course, just 22 years old, you've got a long career hopefully ahead of you. What would be some personal goals for that career?
So for me, my career, obviously right now I'm focused on Charlotte FC. At some point I want to experience the soccer culture in Europe as well, or kind of anywhere overseas. I just kind of for me, I love change. I love trying to push myself, out of my comfort zone a little bit. So, to go over there and just see how it is. And obviously, I obviously want to play in, big leagues like, Premier League, La Liga, Champions League, Europa League, just big competitions like that. I want to play in, just kind of experience to get that experience a little bit, hopefully. Another personal goal of mine as well is obviously to be, at some point, maybe a regular within the national team a little bit, and hopefully get, a couple looks and, kind of just be in that kind of pool a little bit. Obviously, it's always a great honor to play for your national team. Like I play with the national team from, U14 to U20, and obviously to be with the senior team would be one of my biggest goals, and obviously represent myself in the World Cup, for the nation. So those are kind of my personal goals, for me right now, and hopefully they can come soon. We'll see.
100%. So my friends at the Charlotte Soccer Show nicknamed you Knuckles. Do you like that nickname? Is their question?
Knuckles. That's an interesting one, but I'll take it. Hopefully that means I'm strong and I'm kind of out there a little bit. So,
do you have any nicknames on the team?
Not on the team. Everyone just calls me Jay or Jalen. So one of the two, but that's about it.
Well, we'll let Knuckles stick for now. Food and cooking. Apparently, it's a bit of a passion of yours. We've heard that you're one of the best cooks on the team. How do you feel about that title?
That title is actually great. I've been working at the craft for a little bit now, so to be that title is that's an honor, honestly, to be honest with you. So I'm continuing to try different stuff out a little bit too. So I'm hoping when I'm older that I can just become a full-time chef at the crib and do that, cook some good stuff. So
if you had to cook a meal to impress someone, what would it be?
I always like a little good good steak meal.
Okay.
That's always like my first. What would you say?
It's all about the sides with a steak. What would
that's what I'm saying. I'll do like a little crispy potatoes or something. Get a little green beans in there as well. That's kind of like my main dish. If anybody comes over like for the first time when I'm cooking, I just want to try to impress the first time. So.
But now you're giving away your secrets. So now everyone's not going to feel special anymore, Jalen.
Nah, I got to get it out there. I've been doing it all the time. I got to make up something new. That's what I'm saying. I got to try different stuff out. You know what I mean? So.
Last but not least, the barbecue question came up again. Remember who you play for, though.
You ask me this all the time.
Charlotte or Kansas? I have to do it. I have to. Remember who you play for.
I'm going to be honest with you. I've yet to try North Carolina barbecue.
Okay.
When I lived here before I moved to Kansas City, I was a picky eater. I was still eating chicken tenders and fries, so I was not even interested in barbecue at all.
Nothing wrong with chicken tenders.
Then obviously when I was out in Kansas, I explored a lot more, and I love Kansas City barbecue. So I'm gonna wait till the day, probably maybe more towards the off season. I'll try North Carolina barbecue, and then we can go back to this question. And I can answer it for you.
It's a deal. You heard it here on Crown Corner. Jalen Lindsay, thank you so much for joining us, and we will get to the bottom of the barbecue question next season. Have a good one, man, and good luck.
Thank you, Jess. Appreciate it.
Appreciate that interview with Jess and Jalen. Couple of things I need to address. I love that you went back to the barbecue question. You need to pressure him on this. We need to pressure him on this. We need an answer. As somebody who has tried both, I wouldn't blame him for either answer. That's all.
Listen, he gave his answer. He said he's only ever eaten Kansas barbecue and he loves it. So I appreciate his commitment to the cause, though, saying that he won't eat it until the off season, because I think that Carolina barbecue sauce might upset his stomach a little before he plays.
Especially the vinegar doesn't hit that way. The vinegar doesn't hit that way. I know Brant, when I was at his party on Sunday, was still badgering me about my barbecue pulled pork. And I said, I don't want you to be like, in one of these last 6 games, weighed down because of, a barbecue pork butt. So, that obviously is something that's very, very similar. Apparently, we've got a group of players that really love their barbecue.
Hey, it's a tradition, right? So good commitment to the area from the guys, but I'm glad they're taking their fitness seriously, because we need every little advantage we can get in these final 6 matches.
Cincinnati is a squad we haven't seen in a while, Jess, and that was kind of one of our matches that I looked at. And you get a brace from Karol Swiderski, and I don't think that's the same team now that we saw back then. They've made some additions, and as every team has over the course of this season. So it's hard to really call upon what we saw earlier on in this season, but they're a team that's played rather well. They've had a couple of results that have just kind of gone their way at the death. They've gone on a long unbeaten streak, but I do feel like this is one for them where if you look at their situation, they're definitely feeling in the same kind of boat that we are, is that they're below the playoff line. They need every point they can get.
Yeah, I think there are some similarities with the two teams and the situations they're in, but also I think for FC Cincinnati, unbeaten in 6, they're feeling a little bit more hot than we are right now. And I
Mhm.
think that they'll be feeling very confident at their own place. And this is where maybe we can catch them off guard a little bit. They've been a team that has had some crazy refereeing decisions affect them, just like we have. And I think that's
Mm.
interesting to see that it's spread across the MLS in terms of terrible refereeing at times. And hopefully that won't come into play against FC Cincinnati this weekend for either side. I'd like it to be down to the quality of the play. They've added Matt Miazga, who's obviously a player that American fans will know. I know very closely from his time at Reading FC, and he's a fantastic defender that will offer them something more stable defensively, because they're a side that's conceded 4 goals in matches. They haven't kept that many clean sheets in terms of defensively. Matt Miazga is going to be an addition to that. Then other US fans will be interested in Brandon Vazquez, of course, hasn't spent time in the national team, but he's a guy who has been pushing for a spot in the American national team with the way that he's been playing. So I think that FC Cincinnati have a couple of game-changing players, just like we've seen against the likes of Toronto. And it's all about a game plan for Charlotte FC. But we've seen pictures of Nuno Santos at training, which is a huge boost for Charlotte FC fans, I think, in terms of getting some new players into the mix. And I think Adolfson Malander as well offered something different defensively. So I'm hoping that he gets a nod as well.
Yeah, Nuno back from his trip back to get his passport in Portugal. So looks like he's going to be available this weekend. Not necessarily sure on Nathan Byrne. I believe Christian Latanzio on Thursday is going to update his status. He's kind of the last outstanding guy when it comes to these visas. But, with 6 games left, like we said, you need all the help you can get at this point if you're Charlotte FC. And even a guy like Vazquez, I find it interesting because we were very much keyed in on him during that first game that we played. He had a pretty good goal streak coming into that contest, if I remember correctly. But it was a situation where Charlotte FC kind of locked him down. And I do feel like over the course of this season, there have been marked moments where we defensively have handled a lot of attacking players very well. I think about Austin. We were able to handle Driussi very well, and some other players too, even a guy like Chicharito in that LA Galaxy game. But in the last couple of matches, unfortunately for Charlotte FC, the opposition's best have had their way, especially when we saw Toronto, the 2 Italian superstars score their goals. Charlotte needs to get back on defense to not only get themselves assignment correct, but also get themselves forward enough with enough chances on target to put something in on the defense to actually get them nervous.
Yeah, it's vital. And that clinical finishing is going to be vital. I expect that's an area that they've been working on in practice, because they can't let what happened against Toronto happen again. I mean, it's encouraging how many shots were created. That's fantastic news in terms of build-up. And that's without the likes of Nuno Santos in a number 10 position, who can hopefully be a creative playmaker. But it doesn't matter if you're creating those chances if you're not able to make them count for something. So I think it'll be a tough match, but I think if Charlotte FC comes in organized, comes in structured, there's no reason why they can't get the win on the road.
Well, what would you be making in a dinner to impress Sebastian? What would you be making?
I don't know. I can't think about food right now, Will. I'm sick as a dog, man. I don't even want to think about food.
The thing that Julianne says she loves the most of mine is my steak. Although I did make a on my new diet, I did make a hot dog and sauerkraut bowl that she said she basically would want on her birthday if I could make it for her. So
I don't understand how you can eat hot dogs, but you can't eat avocado. This diet makes no sense to me, Will.
It's all about the protein and the correct dietary fats. And they were all beef, no nitrate, sugar-free hot dogs. So
just get your plug in while you can, Will. Get your plug in for your diet. It's going well. You're down 8 pounds. Good job, my friend.
We'll see what the scale says tomorrow. I'm wondering because I have my next weigh-in tomorrow, so we'll see what it is. But that comes your way later on this week as well, with Charlotte FC taking on FC Cincinnati. Our pregame coverage gets underway 7 o'clock for a 7:30 first kick in Cincinnati. Getting ready for that one, very much so. Hopefully, we can go up there, get ourselves a result, and get this thing back on track. And hopefully, with some better momentum coming in for a home matchup against NYCFC as well in the offing. For Matt Hogan, Jessica Charman, I'm Will Pelagic. We will talk to you this weekend, and hopefully we go up to the place they call the Queen City and show them who the real Queen City is once again. Hope you enjoyed Crown Corner. And once again, you can find this if you missed any part of it anywhere where you get your podcasts. And we'll see you next week. We'll talk to you on Saturday as well on the Charlotte